Native English speakers aren't exactly well known for speaking other languages well. And I can say that because I am a native English speaker, and whenever people hear me speak Portuguese, they are shocked. Inglês? E falas português assim também? So I've made it my mission to help those of you who have zero experience with languages and probably think that you're terrible at it because you have these awful memories from doing French O-level decades ago. I'm here today to tell you that it is not hopeless. You can learn to speak Portuguese, and the place that I urge you to begin is pronunciation. I teach hundreds of students and the majority of them do have English as their first language, so I have noticed some common mistakes that they often make, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to correct these. For those of you that don't know, I am Liz. I'm a Brit living a life that I love in Lisbon. I've been studying Portuguese academically for 15 years, so I now teach practical Portuguese in plain English that is going to help you navigate your everyday life in Portugal with ease. If you are not subscribed, do it now. It's free and it helps me reach a lot more people, and you'll also be the first to get notified every time I publish a new video. So let's get into it. I have 5 common mistakes that I'm going to help you correct today, so give this video a like if you're ready to get started. So first up, we need to recognise that what's going to give you away most as an English speaker in your pronunciation is your pronunciation of vowels, and this is where we should really focus in the beginning. I want to mention that for the purpose of this video, I am specifically talking about American and my own British pronunciation. I guess my pronunciation is pretty close to the posh RP. Of course, there are dozens of other English accents that I would love to talk about in future videos, but just for reference, that's what I'm referring to today when I say English. So let's take a super simple word, and I want you to pronounce it as you would as a native English speaker. Here it is. So this of course means thank you. Did you say obrigado or obrigado? Now that O at the end is the one that is going to give you away. When a word ends in an O in Portuguese, we don't want an O or an O, we actually want an OO sound. So that really is quite different, and that's something really easy that you can start doing today. So now say these ones with me. Obrigado. Ótimo. Perfeito. You are already sounding better. So what about the vowel A? Now, most English speakers, when they see this, they will assume that it is the A that we would have in cat, hat, bat, okay, an open A. But to sound more Portuguese, we need to know when to close down these vowels so that that A is actually going to sound more like the A we use in the word away, away, This is called a near open central vowel, but you don't need to worry about that. We can just refer to it as a closed A. So say these words with me. Amigo. Aqui. Ano. You're already sounding so much better. So next up, I want to talk about the letter H. Now in English, we use a h sound for this. But have you noticed that if a Portuguese person was speaking with their own Portuguese accent and they said this word, hotel, they would say it hotel. Okay, you can see that the H is actually not voiced. Okay, we're not actually going to say an H sound in Portuguese. So this makes it easy. Just forget that it's there. Let's try doing that with the following words. Horas. Horta. Horário. It's so much easier when you know how. Are these tips helping? Let me know in the comments which words in Portuguese you've struggled the most to pronounce, and if you want a more in-depth look at even more sounds in Portuguese, you can download my free pronunciation guide that is linked in the description. The letter H is also important to get right when we see it next to an N. Now I'm sure you've all seen this word on Portuguese menus. Have you tried to pronounce it vinho? So hopefully now you can do the O at the end correctly, but what about that NH in the middle? How is that supposed to sound? This is actually known as a digraph, when 2 consonants work together to form a singular sound, okay? So we're not going to do a N and a H separately. They actually go together to make this sound. Nya. Nya. It's the same sound as the ñ in Spanish when you have that tilde over the N. So España in Spanish is España in Portuguese. So let's try that ny sound with these words. Beijinho, picanha, banho. Next up, I want to tackle the single R. Now the double R, or when an R comes at the beginning of a word, is very difficult as well. It's the h or the r, but actually I've noticed that the singular R comes up just as much with my students. So let's say the letter R together, as we would if we were American or English. R, R, we sound like a pirate, but you can tell that your tongue isn't actually touching any part of your mouth. It's suspended in the middle, R. Now, what we want to do in Portuguese is use a tapped R. So this means that our tongue is going to tap the roof of our mouth just one time. R, r, r. Now this would be where being Scottish or Welsh would come in really handy, because it's the same sound as if the Scottish were saying great, or if the Welsh were saying brilliant. Can you hear that that's a r sound that they would be using there? So this is the sound that we want with words like preto, caro. But also when the R comes at the end of the word, like calor, calor. Can you hear that there's a r happening at the end there as well? Lots of people just want to leave the word at the O and say calor, and you've kind of left it hanging. You haven't really finished off that word. So we need to make sure that we're saying that tapped R at the end of the word as well if we want the perfect pronunciation. So if you are struggling to make this sound, this tapped R, I did mention in my last video and in a previous video before that, that actually this can be very similar to the way a T sounds, particularly if you have an American accent. So the word we've used to demonstrate this before is catapult. Catapult. Can you see that that T is actually a r, r, r sound? So you can actually make the same sound there. So just insert that American T in whatever it is that you're trying to say. Caro, caro. You're actually now very close to saying caro. I could literally talk about this all day. We could cover nasal sounds, we could cover rules about stress, but I do have a lot of other videos on that you can check out next. And I do also have a free lesson for beginners that starts off with even more on this topic. So if you're wondering how to get started with Portuguese, that is the best place to go. It's totally free and it's linked in the description. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. Maybe send it to somebody else who needs some help with their Portuguese pronunciation, and I'll be back at the same time next week. Ciao for now.